Yo, what is going on, guys? Sirius here. In today's video, we are going to be starting the third video in the GSC scripting series where I teach you how to code GSC. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say before we start the content of this video that if you have not watched the last two videos, go ahead and do so because we are going to be building off of what we started in the last two videos. So you're going to need to basically have the code from the last two videos. I'm also going to go ahead and mention if you don't have the latest version of the Sirius GSC.gsc, the utility library I'm working on, go ahead and download it. I added a new function recently called bool, and it is going to be useful for anyone who does not want to have to write the isDefined variable and variable over and over and over again in their script, which is pretty common. So let's go ahead and get into what today's video is about. Last video we went into enabling God mode on a button bind. Today our goal is to go ahead and do infinite ammo. We're going to talk about notifies and waittills, and we will talk about some optimizations from our old code and just go ahead and get an infinite ammo function working. So let's go ahead and get into the code. First thing I want to do is go ahead and use the new function, the new bool function. If you look at our old code, we actually set self.invulnerable to false, and then we do self-disable invulnerability. That's not really that useful. It is kind of nice because whenever you respawn, self.invulnerable automatically is set to false. But we can actually move this into the self-waittill spawn player area up here, and we can go ahead and delete it here. We can remove this, and we can go into this and just cast this to a bool by changing this to a function. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the infinite ammo function. We are going to do the same thing we did yesterday where we make it bound to a button. I know this is going to get kind of clunky. That's intentional. I want to prove a point in the next video as to why you need a menu and why you need a menu base, because the ultimate goal of this series is to allow you to actually create a menu base from scratch. But obviously we need to teach the fundamentals first. So we're going to go ahead and make a new function. If you don't remember what a function is, it's just a group of commands, and we need to make sure that we put it on its own. It can't be inside another function. So let's go ahead and make infinite ammo toggle. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is add a end on death. This is because of the way actually, let's go ahead and change that. So if you remember, every time that we spawn, we thread these functions. We don't actually want to do that. We want to have this only run one time so that our stuff persists. So we're going to go ahead and remove the end on death here. Go ahead and clean this up a little bit. And we're going to take this code right here, and we're going to cut it. We're going to delete this for loop. Don't worry about what that actually is. And we're going to paste it back in. If you deleted it and thought that I had deleted it, just press Control Z to undo. Or you should have. No, there's no undo in here. So this is only going to run one time now whenever we spawn, which means this will run forever, which is good because that means we don't have to run it over and over again. Now, the next thing we're going to do is thread our new method that we have. We're going to do self thread infinite ammo toggle. Okay, then we're going to go into our infinite ammo toggle and we're going to make a new while loop. If you don't remember what a while loop is going to run the command over and over again while the condition inside of it is true. We want this to run forever, so we're going to put while true. We're going to add our open and close brackets. And we're going to add a... actually, we don't need a wait this time because we're going to use something... no, we will. We do. So we're going to add wait 0.025. Now, if you're wondering, if you're new to GSC and you're wondering, why do we have a wait at the bottom of almost every while we use? The reason is because if you run a while loop without having a wait, it's going to run as fast as the computer can run it because it's not telling it to wait, which means it'll run this over and over and over again as quickly as it can. And in Call of Duty, the game actually checks for that. And if you are ever running something every frame or instantly over and over and over again, there's no wait, it'll freeze the game because the function won't be able to continue. So you're going to need to make sure you always have a wait in an infinite loop or anything that runs a bunch of times. So we're going to now want to check for a button. So we're going to do if self is button pressed. We're going to leave this blank for now, and we're going to add a open and close bracket. Let's go ahead and go back to the utility and pick another button that is different than the one we picked last time. I want to use action slot 3, so I'm going to copy SL buttons AS3, and I'm going to put it inside of my isButtonPressed function. This is going to check if we are pressing the third action slot button. You might notice that on PC, on Modern Warfare 3 specifically, the other action slots aren't bound other than action slot 4. I actually don't know how to bind them, so if you know, go ahead and say it in the comments below. Otherwise, I'm just not going to use action slot 1 and 2 in this series. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and do if bool self.noReload. Actually, we don't need to do that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to delete that, and we're going to do self.noReload equals, then an exclamation point, bool self.noReload. Okay, so let's go ahead and break this down. This exclamation point in coding means not. It is basically going to turn the condition that you give it into the opposite of itself. So if self.noReload was true, it would change it into false. And if self.reload was false, it would change it into true. The reason we have to do this bool is because if we don't, what will happen is if no reload is not defined, this not will not work, and actually you'll run into a lot of code errors. So we want to make sure that we cast it into a bool. If you are working on Black Ops 2 and are not, or any other game for that matter, and are not using my GSC library, this function won't exist, and you're going to have to copy it from my GSC library. Okay, so we are toggling self.noReload, and then we are going to do self thread, or actually let's clean this up and make it nice. If self.noReload I'm going to keep things consistent. We'll add an open and close bracket. Self thread infinite ammo. Okay, so this infinite ammo function doesn't exist. Let's go ahead and add it before we forget. Go ahead and go below your current function, add a new one, add your open and close parentheses, add your open and close brackets, and go ahead and save it. And we're going to go ahead and just basically finish this function before we move on to the other one so we don't forget anything. If you remember in the last video, I said that you always have to wait while the button is pressed so that it doesn't toggle over and over again. So we'll just go ahead and copy the code from last time, and we will put it at the in between these two brackets. We want it to be inside of this if statement, but outside of this one. We'll go ahead and paste it in, and we're going to change this button's use into buttons AS3. If you choose another button, obviously you'll want it to be the other button that you choose. So this function is now going to loop forever, and it is going to check if we are pressing the action slot 3 button. It is going to then toggle the no reload variable to the opposite of whatever it currently is, and then if it's enabled, we're going to thread our new infinite ammo function. If you don't know what thread means, thread just means that it's going to run it without waiting for the rest of the, or without waiting for the function to end. And you need to do that for anything that loops continuously or has some kind of wait in it. That's why we thread both of these functions, so that they can run at the same time. Anyway, so let's go ahead and write our actual infinite ammo function. We're going to put another while loop, but this time we're actually going to put a condition inside of the while loop because we only want it to run while we have infinite ammo enabled. So we're going to do bool self.noReload, which is just checking if our no reload is actually enabled, and then we're going to add our open and close brackets, and we're going to do a special kind of wait this time. Self wait till underscore any. If you don't know where the underscore is, it's a shift on the minus key by your backspace. And then you're going to put your quotes, weapon underscore fired, go outside of your quotes, put a comma, add another pair of quotes, grenade underscore fire, go outside of your quotes, put another comma, missile underscore fire, go outside of your quotes, put another comma, weapon underscore change, then go outside of your parentheses and put a semicolon. So let's really quickly talk about this. The wait till function inside of any Call of Duty is going to wait for something called a notification. Just think of it as basically something that gets sent, like a message, to the thing that you call it on. So self in this scenario is us, the player. It's not always us, the player, but for this case, you can just think of it as us. So we're saying wait for the message of weapon fired or grenade fire or missile fire or weapon change. All of these are just basically messages that are sent by the game to us automatically whenever we fire our weapon, or we throw a grenade or tactical, or we shoot a rocket launcher or a ballistic knife in Black Ops, or we change our weapon. Wait till any is actually not a built-in function, but for most people who just copy the default code, you'll have the thing included that you need to wait till any. At some point, we will also use a notify, but we don't need it in this video, so we're not going to. But notify is how you send the message to the person or thing that is going to be waiting for the event. That's also how you see these end on. End on is waiting for a message, and whenever it receives that message, like disconnect, it quits the current function. So if the game ends or the player disconnects, this function is just going to quit. These are actually not even necessary for this function anymore because of the way we have this, but we're going to go ahead and leave it just to be safe. So going back to our infinite ammo function, let's go ahead and say weapon equals self get current weapon. And you can see the autofill for Infinity Loader kind of helps us out here. Offhand equals self get current. Oh. And let's just scroll down. I can't see it, but we want get current offhand. I was trying to use the autofill, but when it's at the bottom of the screen, it's kind of a pain. Then we're going to add some spaces. If weapon not, or exclamation point, equal, meaning it's not equal to none, then we're going to add our open and close brackets. Self set weapon ammo clip. We can just autofill it and replace the parameters. We're going to put weapon in here without quotes. I just put quotes out of a habit. And then we're going to put a number here. I'm going to use 1337. You can use whatever you want. This is going to set the ammo amount for the current weapon. Just make sure it's high enough to work for any weapon. There is a better, more clean way to do this, but I have found that it causes compatibility issues between games, so I would always just set a really high number here, because the game, by default, will just cap it at the current weapon's maximum clip size. Then we're going to do self give max ammo, which is apparently all lowercase in the autofill, weapon. And make sure we add our semicolon. Let's go ahead and check our syntax, because we've written a lot of code. And I just want to make sure that we are still good on syntax, and we are. If you are not good on syntax, for example, if I get rid of this and you check syntax, you can actually double click this and go to the definition. This will only work in Infinity Loader, or if you're using GSX Studio, you can click the error in the bottom left that comes up. So let's go ahead and do if offhand, which is our current offhand, which is like a grenade or tactical, is not equal to none. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Go outside of the parentheses and add some brackets. Self give max ammo offhand. So you can tell that the give max ammo is just going to give us the maximum amount of ammunition available for the weapon that we give it, and we're giving it our offhand and our weapon, which should give us maximum ammo for basically everything on our inventory. And the final thing is, actually that's it. So what this function is going to do, let's go ahead and review. If self.noReload is set to true, meaning it's enabled, we're going to get our current weapon and our current offhand and assign them to a variable so we can use them later. We're going to check if our current weapon is not equal to none, because if our weapon is equal to none, it means we don't have a weapon, and we don't want to try to give it ammo because it'll mess with the game. Then we're going to set its ammo clip or its magazine to 1337, or basically the maximum amount of ammo it can take. And then we're going to give it the maximum amount of reserve ammunition we can. Then we're going to do the same thing for our offhand, but our offhand doesn't have a clip, so we don't need to do that. And then we're going to wait until basically something happens. So whether we fire our weapon, fire a grenade, fire a missile, or swap weapons. And then it's going to repeat because we have this no reload. However, if we disable no reload in our bind, this loop is going to exit, and we're not going to have to worry about this code running after we disable it. So let's go ahead and check our syntax, and let's go ahead and inject. Gonna wait for it to show up. This is the first time I injected it today, so it's going to be a little bit slow. And we're going to start the game. I do have a legacy PC, so it may take a second to load, and I guess not. I got lucky today. We'll spawn in with a UMP. Now, we set it to action slot 3, so I need to press action slot 3. We forgot to do an iPrint line, so we'll have to go back and do that. But if I shoot, you'll notice that my ammo is not depleting. It is depleting for a few frames, but that's just because the notification system's a little bit slow in GSC. So there's about a millisecond or two delay. Well, it's more than a millisecond, but there's a little bit of a delay. But it's fine, because clearly we can't shoot faster than that. So we have unlimited ammo, and we also have unlimited grenades and tacticals, apparently. Or do we have unlimited grenades? Yeah, we should. Okay, cool. Alright. I just almost killed myself because I forgot to enable God mode. You are now in God mode. Alright, let's go ahead and end the game really quickly and add a iPrint line so that we know whenever our infinite ammo is enabled. So let's just put self iPrint line bold, and inside of this we're going to change this to you now have infinite ammo. Okay, and then we're going to add an else statement. If you don't remember what an else statement does, an else statement basically does it's only going to do what's inside of the brackets if the condition self.noReload is false. So we're going to say self iPrint line bold, you no longer have infinite ammo. Let's go ahead and check our syntax and inject just to make sure this works. Yes, we only wrote, 3 or 4 lines of code, but it's still good to test frequently so that you don't run into bugs later, just assuming stuff works. If you write a lot of code and you just assume stuff works, that's how you run into really bad scripts that don't work because you don't know what's going on in them. So just make sure to test pretty frequently. So I'm going to go ahead and press the action slot 3. You now have infinite ammo. I have infinite ammo. I'm going to press it again, and I no longer have infinite ammo. And that's 18 minutes. I had no idea it was taking that long. I might just start aiming for 20 minutes from now on because it seems like we're consistently going over 15 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like. Let me know in the comment section below if I can improve anything. Let me know if you have any questions about today's video. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.